all day, every day. Team Revolution.
Buy more for less this summer, from cookware to curtains, comforters, and more. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Label Crafts Jamaica Limited offers exceptional finishes that will make your product extraordinary at an affordable cost. The Temperature by Label Crafts Jamaica Limited, the #1 choice for label printing is...
It's 31 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 32 in Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Roby Ann Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, the opposition says Transport Minister is attempting to mislead the public by blaming the high toll charges facing motorists on the PNP.
But Darrell Vaz insists that the last PNP administration signed the toll arrangements that govern increased rates.
This was signed in June 2012, which would have given them sufficient time to put together a proper final contract for signing, which the onus was on them to do.
And the PNP wants full disclosure on the contractual arrangements for the two-lane expansion of the Mommy Bay Toll Plaza in St. Anne.
Tributes pour in for one of the greatest cricketers of all time, the late Sir Garfield Sobers.
MP Damien Crawford says he will not be drawn by coordinated attacks against him and his perceived supporters inside the PNP.
In news from the rest of the world, CARICOM pays tribute to Sir Garfield Sobers.
Israel's parliament dissolves ahead of October 27 elections.
In sports, tributes continue to flood in following the death of West Indies cricket great Sir Garfield Sobers.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, tributes are still pouring in for cricket legend Sir Garfield Sobers. The Barbadian passed on Friday morning at age 89. To look back at Sir Gary's legacy, we'll hear from noted cricket commentators Joseph Reds Pereira and Fazir Mohammed.
In the nation's business at 6:25, the National Water Commission has emerged as the nation's top-performing utility provider in overall customer experience, according to the Mystery Shopping Study for 2025, organized by the Office of Utilities Regulation. Director of Consumer and Public Affairs at the OUR, Yvonne Nicholson, and CEO of Market Research Services Limited, Kishka K. Anderson, will join us.
Taking you around the world at 6:45, U.S. President Donald Trump is accusing China of meddling in the 2020 presidential elections, which he lost to Joe Biden. You'll hear more. And at 7, it's the comments section. This evening they're asking, what's your score prediction for the World Cup final? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM. All these and more as we take you home on air, Nationwide 90 FM, this Friday afternoon. It's Friday, July 17, 2026.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. The opposition PNP has hit back at claims made by Transport Minister Darrell Vaz that it is to be blamed for the high toll charges facing motorists who use the north-south leg of Highway 2000. Opposition spokesman on Land and Works, Lothan Cousins, says Minister Vaz's claim is an attempt to mislead the public. Dana Davey reports.
The Transport Ministry announced the impending toll increases for the north-south leg of Highway 2000 in a notice on Thursday. The announcement sparked a flood of criticism from motorists. Those criticisms prompted Minister Vaz to issue a statement in which he attributed the toll adjustment mechanism to the previous People's National Party (PNP) administration. According to Minister Vaz, The increases are a product of legally binding concession agreements entered into by the PNP and the private concessionaires. But in a statement on Friday, opposition spokesman on Land and Works, Luthan Cousins, rejected the claim. He says there's no truth to Vaz's argument that the formula for the annual review of toll rates originated under the PNP. He says while the principal agreements that established the framework for the North-South Highway project were signed in June 2012, they were negotiated and executed by a JLP administration in 2011. Cousins says the PNP signed the deals within the framework of contractual arrangements and financial principles that had already been established by the previous JLP government. These include the MOU between the government and China Harbour Engineering Company Limited, the framework agreement and the original implementation agreement, all signed before the December 2011 general election. Cousins says the current Holness government cannot wash its hands of responsibility for the increased toll rates. He says inflation under its watch has exceeded the upper band of its inflation target and is a significant factor contributing to the announced toll increase. Dana Davy for Nationwide News.
But the Transport Minister has hit back in a statement issued at about 4:30 p.m. today. Vaz says the deal for the toll arrangements was signed by the last PNP administration 6 months after it had retaken control of the government.
Once again, the PNP is being completely disingenuous. I understand that Mr. Cousins just got the little work a few days ago as shadow spokesperson, so he would neither have the time or the documentation to properly review. What I can say categorically is that the Labour Party lost office in 2011 December. This was signed 6 months later in June 2012, which would have given them sufficient time, wherever the discussions had reached, to quote and put together a proper final contract for signing, which the onus was on them to do.
Minister Vaz says Jamaicans continue to be impacted by the incompetence of previous PNP governments.
I find it disingenuous, and there is no question that they were responsible for signing both agreements, the one in 2001 and the one in 2012. The record speaks for itself. This Andronis administration and the people of Jamaica continue to pay dearly for the incompetence and the recklessness that took place under the PNP administration, the wrecking crew.
Darrell Vaz, Transport Minister.
And the opposition spokesman on Land and Works, Luthan Cousins, says Minister Vaz must provide full transparency regarding the planned expansion of the Mommy Bay Toll Plaza in St. Ann. The government announced on Thursday that 2 additional toll lanes are under construction at Mommy Bay. Once finished, they are expected to reduce the traffic pileup during peak weekend periods on the Caymanas to Ocherius leg of the highway. Cousins notes that the government has provided no details about the contractual basis for the project or how it will be financed. He is calling on the government to disclose whether the expansion is being undertaken as a grantor variation under the concession agreement and whether the project will be funded by the government or the concessionaire. He also wants disclosure on whether the works are intended to enable the operator to satisfy its contractual obligation to maintain the required level of service. Cousins also wants to know if public funds are being used and how that decision represents value for money for Jamaican taxpayers. The opposition spokesman says the government owes the Jamaican people clear answers, as transparency and accountability cannot be optional when public money and future toll increases are involved. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz has sought to clarify that the planned expansion of the Mommy Bay Toll Plaza forms part of plans announced by the Prime Minister during the budget debate.
Tributes continue to pour in for legendary cricketer Sir Garfield Sobers, who died on Friday morning at the age of 89. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has labelled Sir Gary as a true son of the Caribbean. He says Sir Gary's legacy extends far beyond the cricket field. According to the Prime Minister, Sobers united people across the Caribbean and around the world through a shared love of the game. Dr. Holness adds that Sobers' captaincy of the West Indies saw him lead with distinction and helped to strengthen the team's place among the world's finest. and Sports Minister Olivia Grange has hailed the legendary Barbadian as a titan. Sir Gary played for the West Indies for 18 years. Grange described him as a phenomenal sportsman who was also a unifying symbol of West Indian excellence, pride, and identity. She referenced his 365 not-out performance at Sabina Park in Jamaica against Pakistan in 1958, a feat he achieved at the age of 21. On behalf of the Jamaican government, Minister Grange has extended condolences to Sir Gary's family, friends, loved ones, as well as to the people of his native Barbados and to the entire regional and global cricketing fraternity.
Meanwhile, during Friday's sitting of the Senate, State Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Abka Fitz-Henley, sought leave from President Tom Tavares Finson to hail the contribution of Sir Gary to Caribbean identity.
I seek your indulgence, sir, to note the passing of Sir Garfield Sobers, an icon of the region and of world cricket, a man who was very important to the West Indies in shaping Caribbean identity at a time when the vestiges of our colonial past, characterized by the bane of a superiority complex, dominated many Caribbean societies. Sir Garfield Sobers' contribution, his performances, and the way he carried himself with dignity was a powerful symbol of Caribbean excellence.
Minister Fitz-Henley says Sir Gary meant everything to the people of Barbados.
He made many across the region understand that it was possible to dominate with excellence and dignity on the world stage. I lived in Barbados for approximately 2 years, and I know how important a figure Sir Gary is to the people of Barbados, and I pass on my condolences to them. Indeed, in Barbados, he is properly recognized as the Right Excellent Sir Garfield Sobers, a national hero.
Senator Abka Fitz-Henley.
And opposition spokesperson on sport and former West Indies cricketer Wavell Hines has described the late Sir Garfield Sobers as a man whose legacy transcends generations. Hines, in his tribute to Sir Gary, says he was one of the greatest sporting figures the Caribbean had ever produced. He says his achievements inspired generations of young men and women to believe that greatness was within their reach. According to Hines, his most memorable interaction with Sobers came in 2005 in Barbados. He says they spoke during a West Indies training camp ahead of a test series against South Africa. Hines says he used the lessons learned from their conversation to record his highest score in the first test against South Africa in Guyana.
You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
It's IQ Optical's sizzling summer sale. For this month only, get 50% off lenses when you purchase a frame. Kids get free lenses with a purchase of a frame. Make the intelligent choice with IQ Optical. Conditions apply. The time by IQ Optical is
5:13.
Termites, rodents, or birds infesting your home or office? Call Rentokil Initial, the pest expert, at 876-926-4236 for a free pest assessment island-wide. The temperature brought to you by Rentokil Initial is...
It's 31 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 32 in Montego Bay.
A voice, a personality you love, returns to Nationwide this August. Afternoons, on air and online at Nationwide, will never be the same.
Continuing the news, Transport Minister Darrell Vaz is renewing his appeal for greater responsibility and discipline on the nation's roads. It follows the fatal motor vehicle collision on the Bogagate Road in Falmouth, Trelawney. On Friday morning, 7 men were killed during the incident. Mahiri Stewart reports.
It's reported that close to 8 a.m., a Toyota Hiace bus collided head-on with a panel truck on the Bogue Gate Road on the North Coast Highway. Firefighters from the Falmouth and St. James fire stations responded to the crash. Upon arrival, the firemen found several occupants trapped inside both vehicles. They used specialized rescue equipment to remove them. Those injured were rushed to the Falmouth Public General Hospital for medical treatment. The cause of the collision remains under investigation. Minister Vaz says the tragedy is another painful reminder that Jamaica continues to suffer the devastating consequences of reckless behavior on the roads. He noted that the unacceptable number of road fatalities recorded this year demands a renewed commitment for every road user to obey the road code. The 7 fatalities add to the 166 people killed on the nation's roads between January 1 and July 17. That's according to the latest reports from the Island Traffic Authority released early Friday morning. This is 23 fewer than the 150 fatalities recorded during the corresponding period last year. Despite the overall decline in road fatalities since the start of this year, concern has been growing about the increase in the death rate in road crashes in the last week. The alarm was raised by Director of the Mona Geoinformatics Institute, Dr. Paris Liu Ayi Jr., at the National Road Safety Council mid-year traffic assessment on Tuesday.
We're seeing generally a reduction in fatalities. For the year, we are seeing about 0.84 people dying per day. That is down compared to last year, the year before, etc. But what is of concern is over the last 7 days, we're seeing 1.71 people dying per day. In the last 7 days, the death rate is twice the average for the year. We now need to stop that before it gets out of control.
Minister Vaz says the Transport Ministry will soon launch a public safety education campaign aimed at improving behavior on the nation's roads.
We do have a public education campaign that we're launching and going through the processes for procurement, and that will be a national road safety education and public relation campaign. That's going to be funded from the ministry's 5% of ticket fines. So we get 5% for the Ministry of Transport every month of the total amount of ticket fines. So we're going to use that. And also that will include, obviously, going into the schools and not only just billboards and ads and social media. It will be interactions with exactly the suggestion you made with schools and youth community groups and that sort of thing.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by
Member of Parliament for Northwest St. Catherine Damian Crawford says he will not be drawn into responding to what he describes as coordinated attacks against him and his perceived supporters inside the People's National Party PNP. In a message posted to PNP WhatsApp groups on Thursday, Crawford accused some individuals of using proxies to attack him. He described such attacks as cowardly. Robian Williams reports.
On Monday, Nationwide News reported that it's widely expected that Mark Golding will face a challenge for the post of president when the PNP puts the leadership issue to a vote at its annual conference in September 2027. It was also reported that the main challenge to Golding is expected from MP for Northwest St. Catherine, Damian Crawford. Sources told our news centre that Crawford has been quietly building a coalition of support among the PNP's 28 MPs in Parliament. We also revealed a list of MPs that have been grouped according to their perceived loyalty to Crawford and PNP President. That list, which NNN did not generate, was obtained from sources close to the PNP. It showed Crawford having the support of 13 MPs, while Golding had 9. The list has generated much discussion on social media, with some PNP supporters criticizing Crawford and accusing him of being ungrateful to Golding. Crawford responded to these claims in a WhatsApp message sent to comrades. In the message, the MP says he has made no public announcement indicating an intention to seek any leadership position within the PNP. However, he maintained that as a registered member of the party, he has the right to offer himself for any position should he choose to do so. Crawford also notes that under the party's rules, elections for the positions of president and vice president are not due until September 2027. He argued that a prolonged internal campaign over the next 14 months would be damaging to the party's prospects. The Northwest St. Catherine MP says he has made significant personal sacrifices for the PNP and has consistently supported the party's leadership despite what he described as repeated disrespect and resistance. He adds, quote, I have reduced my own presence, literally jumping walls to avoid cheers upon entrance and choosing to flee situations where there was a clear reason to fight just to preserve the party's image. I will maintain my silence for these same reasons. Crawford also highlights what he says were his contributions to several key policy proposals, including debt forgiveness measures, a teacher retention plan, a 1 meal per child school program, rent-to-own housing initiatives, and increased income tax thresholds. He says while those contributions do not entitle him to any particular leadership position, they should at least earn him the right to exist in peace within the party. In closing, Crawford wrote, "If all truth were to be told, there would be no peace in Babylon. So let's continue work, knowing the next general elections might just be our most important." Robeanne Williams for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
The Caribbean community CARICOM has joined the region in paying tribute to cricket legend Sir Garfield Sobers. In a media release on Friday, CARICOM says Sir Garfield was a son of the Caribbean and embodied the excellence and resilience that defined the community, adding that his brilliance on the field transcended the boundaries of cricket and earned him global recognition. According to the regional body, Sir Garfield was deservedly conferred with CARICOM's highest honor, the Order of the Caribbean Community, in 1998.
Israel's parliament dissolved on Friday after passing a marathon of bills in the last moments of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's governing coalition. The parliament, which was scheduled to break for its summer recess on Friday, will not reconvene before the elections scheduled on October 27. The expected dissolution comes as Netanyahu is struggling to hold on to power ahead of the next elections. Israeli polls are showing a wave of support for opposition parties led by former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Over the past week, the parliament passed several controversial laws in marathon sessions as Netanyahu attempted to push through several of his pet projects.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, the opposition says Transport Minister is attempting to mislead the public by blaming the high toll charges facing motorists on the PNP.
But Darrell Vaz insists that the last PNP administration signed the toll arrangements that govern increased rates.
MP Damian Crawford says he will not be drawn by coordinated attacks against him and his perceived supporters inside the PNP. I'm Robeanne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com, and please feel free to join our Nationwide Family Club at patreon.com/Nationwide News Network. News next, the headlines at 6.
A voice you love returns home. This August, afternoons on Nationwide on air and online will never be the same.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Now, the tributes continue to pour in following the passing of the Barbadian and West Indies cricket legend Sir Garfield Sobers. Sir Gary died on Friday, age 89, bringing to a close the life of one of cricket's greatest ever icons. Orane Buchanan tells us more.
Widely regarded as the finest all-rounder in the history of the game, Sobers was named one of Wisden's 5 cricketers of the 20th century. His remarkable Test career spanned 2 decades, during which he captivated audience with his brilliance as a batsman, bowler, and fielder. A national hero of Barbados, Sobers' influence extended far beyond his homeland. He became a symbol of West Indies cricket excellence and was knighted shortly after his retirement in recognition of his outstanding contribution to the sport. President of Cricket West Indies, Dr. Kishore Shallow, described Sobers as a unique individual both on and off the field.
The Right Excellence Garfield Sobers was the greatest cricketer the world has ever seen. His mastery of batting, bowling and fielding was unparalleled, but his true significance reached far beyond the boundary ropes. He emerged from the Caribbean at a time when our region was finding its voice and asserting its place on the world stage. His legacy will forever endure in the hearts of our region and the story of the cricketing world. He showed that greatness was not confined by the size of our nations, the geography of our islands, or the circumstances of our beginnings.
Cricket West Indies CEO Chris Derrin says Sobers was among the players who first inspired his love for the game, describing him as a giant whose legacy transcends statistics.
As children, we all imitated when we were playing in our backyards, how we turned up our collar, we tried to walk like him, even if we didn't have his skill. To the end, he remained gracious, approachable, deeply committed to the continued growth of West Indies cricket.
Meanwhile, President of Jamaica Cricket Association, Dr. Donovan Bennett, remembers what's arguably Sobers' finest moment.
Well, he certainly means a lot to us because that world record that he made, the 365 not out against Pakistan, was in fact at Sabina Park. So it is one of the things that Sabina Park is known for. But in addition to that, he was a tremendous all-rounder, probably the best the world has ever seen. Certainly have deep respect for him, and I would like to express my condolences and that of the Jamaica Cricket Association and cricket in Jamaica in general.
Sir Garfield Sobers leaves behind an unmatched legacy that will continue to inspire cricketers and fans across the Caribbean and the world. Orane Buchanan, reporting for Nationwide Sports.
Thank you very much, Orane. Now, Jamaica will go in search of a third straight victory at the Cricket West Indies Rising Stars Under-19 tournament when they take on the Windward Islands at Bethesda Sports Complex on Saturday, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning at Jamaica time. The Jamaicans opened their tournament with defeat to the Leeward Islands, but they bounced back brilliantly to beat Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago in their other games. They are currently second in the standings behind Barbados, who have won all 3 of their games so far in the competition. In other games on Saturday, the Leeward Islands will take on the Trinidad and Tobago team, while the Barbadians will take on the Guyanese over at Coolidge Cricket Ground. All 3 games are set to bowl off at 9 o'clock in the morning Jamaica time. The Wonder Diamond League Series moves to London on Saturday for its 11th stop at the Olympic Stadium. Jamaica will have 3 competitors on the bill. The reigning 100 meters champion, Oblique Seville, he'll be in the 100 meters against Letsile Tobogo and Zarnell Hughes. Nikisha Price and Stacey Ann Williams will be in the women's 400 meters, where they'll confront the Olympic champion from the Dominican Republic, Mary Lady Paulina, and the meet is set to get underway at 7 o'clock in the morning Jamaica time. Finally, in sports, at this time, Leo Messi has the opportunity to add another remarkable chapter to his legendary career on Sunday when Argentina takes on Spain in the 2026 FIFA World Cup final at Miami Stadium. And in fact, the game will be at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Mahiri Stewart tells us more.
A victory would give Messi his second World Cup title and cement Argentina's place among the tournament's greatest teams. The championship match concludes a historic World Cup that featured an expanded field of 48 nations competing in more than 100 matches across the United States, Mexico, and Canada over the past 6 weeks. Argentina enters the final as the defending champion after overcoming England 2-1 in dramatic fashion in Wednesday's semi-final. The South American Giants are seeking their fourth World Cup title after lifting the trophy in 1978, 1986, and 2022. Argentina also arrives in the final on the back of consecutive Copa America triumphs in 2021 and 2024. Standing in Argentina's way is a disciplined Spanish side that has been one of the tournament's standout performers. Spain reached the final with a 2-0 victory over two-time world champion France on Tuesday, eliminating one of the pre-tournament favourites. La Roja has been nearly flawless defensively, conceding just one goal throughout the competition. Spain is aiming to capture its second FIFA World Cup title after winning its first in 2010. The European champions have carried their strong form into the global tournament after claiming the UEFA European Championship in 2024 with a 2-1 victory over England. Sunday's final sets up a compelling clash between Argentina's championship experience and Spain's dominant defense. Much of the spotlight will fall on Messi, who could become one of the few players in football history to win multiple World Cup titles while leading his nation to consecutive appearances in the final. Before the championship match, England and France will meet on Saturday at Miami Stadium in the third-place playoff. For Nationwide Sports.
And that will do it for sport. But before we go, just to tell you what's going to happen on Sunday, we're starting our pre-game show at 1 o'clock. So 1 hour before the final kicks off at 2 o'clock. Of course, you know, since the start of the World Cup, we've been doing 30-minute pre-game shows. We're going for 1 hour. All 4 of our analysts will be in studio. And of course, we'll be doing a complete look back at what has happened so far at the World Cup. But before even on Sunday, we've got a third-place game to contend with. It's in Miami, and it's between France and England. That game will kick off at 4 o'clock on Saturday. So the weekend of football starts on Saturday at 4 o'clock with France against England. And then we go into the grand finale, the 104th game of this FIFA World Cup on Sunday. Set to kick off at 2 o'clock. We'll start our build-up to that massive showdown at 1 o'clock, and we hope you join us then. We're going to be back for more sports this evening at 6:05. Alric Swiby will have that one for you.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is
5:33.
From the vibrant waterfront setting of Ocho Rios Bay Beach to the breathtaking seascape of Laughing Waters, discover exceptional venues for your special events. The temperature by the Urban Development Corporation is
31 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston. It's 32 in the western city, Montego Bay.
This is Nationwide's FIFA World Cup Fact, brought to you by Juicy Patties, serious Jamaican food.
Did you know that it took 28 years for England to win a penalty shootout at the FIFA World Cup? Yes, that's a fact. England lost each of its first 3 penalty shootouts at the tournament. The 1990 semi-final defeat to West Germany in Turin, the 1998 round of 16 exit against Argentina, and the 2006 quarter-final loss to Portugal. England finally ended their shootout misery with a 4-3 victory over Colombia at the 2018 World Cup in Russia.
That was Nationwide's FIFA World Cup Fact, brought to you by Juicy Patties, serious Jamaican food.
July's Healthcare Workers Appreciation Month. Come make we salute our healthcare workers. You are our heroes. Healthcare workers, thank you for your commitment, service, and sacrifice. Enough respect.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Step into the future of Kingston business. Introducing the Sana, premium mixed-use development on South Avenue. Retail, office, residential, and lifestyle spaces. Modern, sustainable, and professionally managed. Secure your space now in one of Kingston's most distinguished upcoming addresses and position your brand for long-term success. Don't miss this rare opportunity. Call Money Masters now at 876-322-0339 or email the word Sana to info@sanasouth.com. The Sana by Money Masters, Reef South. Experience more.
Come with us to celebrate a major milestone in education. Join Nationwide 90 FM during Urban Paradise on Saturday, July 19 from 9 a.m. to 12 noon for the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean's graduation ceremony. Let's celebrate the achievements of the graduating class as they honor years of hard work and dedication while looking ahead to new opportunities. So tune in Saturday, July 19 from 9 a.m. to 12 noon as we honor this memorable occasion. Catch this and so much more on our YouTube channel, NNN Radio Live. Keep your dials locked to Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean. Journey to the finish, celebrating success, inspiring futures.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's Nationwide at 5. I am yours truly, Saeed Bernard. Well, what's on the cover story this afternoon? One of the greatest cricketers of all time, Barbadian Sir Garfield Sobers, has died at the age of 89. Sir Gary, who played for the West Indies for 18 years, passed away on Friday morning, less than 2 weeks before his 90th birthday at his home in Barbados. His son, Daniel Sobers, recounted his final moments while speaking with Barbadian media house Starcom Network.
We had him on oxygen, and I couldn't believe how powerful he is. He just refused to go. I'd said goodbye to him a few times, and he said, no, not yet. I'm not ready yet. So this morning, his rate of breath had increased, and it came to a point where you couldn't increase it anymore, and he let go, and he passed peacefully, and he's now with his Jackie, with his loved one, with his other half in heaven, at peace.
A product of Bridgetown, Barbados, Sir Garfield Sobers was best known for dominating the sport in the 18 years in which he represented the West Indies. His cricketing career boasted a number of highlights, such as setting the world record for runs scored in a Test cricket match and his incredible 6 sixes in an over. Regarded as one of the best all-round cricketers to ever play the game, Sir Gary was recognized by many for his amazing career, being knighted, for example, by Queen Elizabeth in 1975. He was named as a National Hero of Barbados in 1998, making him one of the 11 persons to be bestowed the honor. Veteran sports journalist Lance Whitaker says Sir Sober was held in the highest regard in discussions about cricketing greatness. Well, we have joining me this afternoon veteran cricket commentator Joseph Pereira and Fazir Mohammed. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yes, good afternoon and good evening to everyone in Jamaica and beyond.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. Let me start with you, Sir Pereira. Your immediate reaction to the passing of Sir Garfield Sobers?
Well, it's the same way I felt when Tony Kosher died. I just felt weak. The day didn't seem to have any meaning. We know that he was not feeling well. We know that it was only at time that it will happen. But when it does happen, it really makes your mind almost go blank. because he was truly the greatest. And I support a view that Michael Holding made this some time ago. He said that Sobers was the greatest batsman, not just the greatest all-rounder. That he was the finest batsman the world has ever seen. And that was a very important point, and I do support that. But you know, Sobers was just genius. He played attacking cricket. He never swiped. If he had played white ball in his later career, he would not have swiped. He wouldn't have gone to cow corner. And some of the innings he played, which no doubt Fazia will talk about, and I will like to chime in, was brilliant. I mean, his 254 in Australia.
Before you get to the innings, Sir Pereira, let me ask Fazia, your reaction to Sir Garfield Sobers passing.
Well, you know, Saeed, I feel out of place commenting on Sir Garfield in the presence of Reds Pereira, who would have seen him in his prime, because at the time I became aware of cricket, Sir Gary's career had just come to an end. But when you grow up reading so much about him that he almost becomes part of your life. And yes, I understand what Reds is saying about the sense of emptiness that he had passed. But when I got the news that he had passed, immediately you got that sense that okay, physically he is no more, but the reaction of the cricketing world, the reverence in which he was held, and indeed one of my enduring images is when India were in Barbados in 2023 getting ready for a couple of test matches, one in Dominica, one in Trinidad and Tobago, and every single Indian player, starting with the coach Rahul Dravid, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, all the big names, legends in the modern era, they had such reverence for Sir Gary, who came to have a look at the team practicing. And that tells the story more than certainly I could, as far as the stature that he held and will continue to hold even though he's passed on. Because and just the caveat I would add, Said, very quickly, because Red said it correctly, a lot of people say one of the greatest or arguably the. I think anybody who appreciates the game of cricket in the way the game of cricket is played will be in no doubt that others might have greater numbers because they've played longer, but there is no question that Sir Gary Sobers is the greatest all-round cricketer of all time, bar none.
Bar none. Interesting. Pereira, you were about to tell me and going into his innings and all of that, but in doing so, I want you to tell me, you haven't seen him. You haven't seen him in his prime. What gave him such greatness?
I think he was just an extraordinary human being. He grew up very humble in the Bayland, close to the Garrison Savannah, and he made his way joining the police band because of the talent he had displayed, and got into the Barbados Cricket League and into the BCA, and you know, he played for the West Indies when he was 17. He was called in to replace Al Valentine, who was sick in 1954. His first wicket was, in fact, Trevor Bailey caught McQuat off the bowling of Sobers. And then he emerged from being a left-arm frontline spinner to opening in the following year against Australia. Well, I saw him at Border. It was a real disappointment the way how he went out. He was facing Ian Johnson, and Billy Watson was feeling at mid-off, and he hit him off the back foot. It was really powering down towards the long off. It hit the instep of Watson, and the catch was taken by Johnson. The record books will say caught and Bull Johnson, but that didn't happen. But some of the innings, and I'm sure that Faz will back me up, his 254 for the rest of the world. It's 254 for the rest of the world. I listened to the 132 he made in the opening test in 1961, where he attacked Benno. He drove Benno through cover. He drove him through mid-off. He drove him through mid-on. And Benno was a great leg spinner, When I went to Australia in 1975, I asked Bill O'Reilly about Sir Garfield. He wasn't Sir Garfield then. And he said, where can I read the spin from Australia? Sobers read it off the pitch. He didn't look at the hand at all. He played it off the pitch, quick footwork. And I can go to many other great events. As a young boy,
I'm going to have to pause it there so I can take the rest right after this break, Superior. So I'm going to ask you, Fazir, to hold the line for me, please.
Visit Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore, for all your prescription needs, gifts, personal care, household, and stationery items. The temperature by Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore is
5:46, and the temperature is 31 degrees in Kingston and 32 out west in Montego Bay.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Listen up, motorists. Every driver's license starts with 0 demerit points. But when you commit certain traffic offences, points are added to your record after payment of the traffic ticket at the tax office or conviction by a court. Quick maths. 10 to 13 points, a 6-month suspension. 14 to 19 points, 1 year. And 20 points or more, a 2-year suspension. Don't risk it. Obey the road code, drive responsibly, and avoid demerit points. This message is brought to you by the Island Traffic Authority.
A voice you love returns home.
Nice and clean, like Jesus police record.
This August.
Oh my God, my tympanic membrane.
Afternoons on Nationwide, on air and online will never be the same.
13 minutes going up to 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are still here on the cover story, speaking about Sir Garfield Sobers, legendary cricketer, and as Fazir Mohammed says, the greatest cricketer of all time, bar none. Correct, Fazir?
Absolutely. No question about that.
No question about that. Well, tell me, being the greatest, he must have had some influence on the modern game. To your knowledge, what does that influence look like?
Well, I think the influence looks like the attractiveness that you would see in stroke play, because and you see now the number of all-rounders, because at a time there was a real scarcity of all-round cricketers, and indeed even in the West Indies.
And when you say all-rounders, you mean they bat and bowl?
Correct. Batting, bowling, fielding. In fact, the measure of a quality all-rounder is someone who could make the team purely as a batsman, purely as a bowler, because of the skills. And indeed now, with the advent of T20 and lesser so ODI, you see all those all-round skills coming to the fore. But again, Sir Gary really set a standard that very few have ever even come close to. And I think his enduring impact on the game will be not just the records and the runs and the wickets and the statistics, and Reds can go on and on for the next 10 weeks or over what he would have seen with his own eyes. But I think the lasting legacy was the panache, the flair, the style, the eyesight, but also a steely determination. I think, Saeed, one of the things that we've had to endure as Caribbean people, especially in that period of the 1960s, was this description of us as calypso cricketers, which meant we were funny, happy, smiley, happy-go-lucky. Whether we won or we lost didn't make a difference. But Sagari and so many others of that era, Kanhai, Hunt, Butcher, Seymour Nurse, Hall, Griffith and company of the 60s, they played cricket with ebullience and flair, but also with a steely resolve. And I think Sagari, more than anyone else, reflected that. He not only wanted to win, but he wanted to win handsomely. When he batted at number 6 with the tail, he batted with such authority. It's almost as if he expected to take control of everything. And I think that's what you see now with players who follow in that legacy, trying to dominate. But of course, Sagari would have been the one who dominated much, much earlier.
And tell me, you mentioned the Caribbean just now, Calypso players and all of that. He's a national hero of Barbados.
Very much so, a national hero, one of the only living national heroes until he passed away today. Of course, Rihanna was given that honor as well when the country became a republic some 4 years ago. But I think really the impact of someone like a Gary Sobers goes beyond the island of Barbados, goes beyond the Caribbean, goes beyond much of the cricketing world. That's why I mentioned that reverence he was held in by those in India. And the reason I mentioned the Indian association is that because we've all grown up hearing about Sobers' great deeds against England, against Australia, in England, in Australia, but we often overlook his phenomenal feats on the subcontinent because for much of the cricketing world, winning in India and Pakistan was considered as the last frontier. Yet the likes of Sobers and Worrell and Hall and the cricketers later on, Richards and Lloyd and company, would go to India and perform great feats. Didn't get the headlines that the Englands and the Australians would get. But if you look at Sobers' numbers on the 66-67 tour of India and the one before that, preceding that one, it tells you of a cricketer with not just phenomenal ability, but with the professionalism and the appetite to dominate in any part of the world, especially at a time when there was no technology, there was no DRS, there was no technology to save you if you felt you were not out. So all of those factors just add to the stature of Sagari.
Pereira, let me ask you this, because he wasn't only an excellent player, but he also coached, I'm told.
Yes, the difficulty of him coaching, he was so great. So he had to be, very careful not to expect anyone to play a shot like him. As I said earlier, the footwork he had was really outstanding, quick, like a boxer, and I don't think that maybe he was used enough in that department, and it's difficult because he had a life where he traveled a great deal. So I don't know how much he was available. I know that there was one coaching film made by him, and I think Rohan Kanai and a few others. But that as far as it went. But he will talk to a lot of the West Indian players, and there's a special relationship that existed between Sir Garfield and Brian Lara. He was in Antigua when he broke the record, and Sobo was there, the first person to say well done and congratulate him.
Okay, so tell me, outside of the world of cricket, what was he like, day to day, not as a cricketer, but as just a person, a human being?
Well, I got to know him really well in 1978. I think through Tony Kosior. World Series called me and asked me if I would come and do the commercial radio. And Sobers was one of the personalities that Kerry Packer had invited just to play up-country matches. And I saw a totally different person. It wasn't Sobers, the great cricketer now. It was the statesman. And his second love was golf. And we had someone who coordinated travel. And he will say, Reds, check out what time they want us to leave. And try and get me on the early flight so I can play golf in Sydney. Or try and get me on the later flight so I can play golf in Melbourne. I think that if Sobers had taken up golf, he probably would have been right up there as a top player. He played basketball. I think he was a goalkeeper.
He played football as a defender, a left back.
No, he played as a goalkeeper.
As a goalkeeper.
And I think he was naturally skilled. I never saw him play table tennis. I've seen the likes of Bernard Julian and Roy Fredericks and Derek Murray. I'm sure that he probably could handle a racket very well. But the great thing about Sagari, he was so humble. You know, he was so humble. You'll never believe that this great man could just, be so so easygoing. You know, he talked to anyone and never maybe tried to tell them how great he was. He left that to people who probably saw him. And you know, the Barbados will now face a question. Should they rename Kensington the Garfield Sobers Center? That is going to come up.
And what is your answer to that, Pereiro?
Well, if you ask me that, I would say if they wanted to go a step further, they could do that. But Kensington is renowned as Kensington, and they might decide that they will honor him in a different way. But the Guyana government could name the new stadium in Berbice under Rowan Canai and name Providence and Clive Lloyd. I don't know if the Barbadians will go that way, but there will be calls.
There will be calls. And finally, to you, Sir Fazeer Mohammed, how do you want Sir Gary to be remembered going forward? Greatest cricketer of all time, you say. How should he be remembered going forward?
I think he should be remembered in the way that we hear so many outstanding former cricketers describing him. You would hear Ravi Shastri on social media and so many others describing Sagari as not just a legend, but an inspiration. He would have been someone who, just by his stature, by the way he carried himself, as Red said, humility but great at the same time, that he was an inspiration. It's almost the same side of any other outstanding, world-class, great sportsman or woman, that they didn't really have to do much. They didn't have to convince anyone just by the way they carried themselves. And I think that is the enduring legacy of a Sagari Sobers. As I said, I never saw him in his prime, but I saw him in a charity match, walking to the wicket from the Queen's Park Oval, and just seeing him with that traditional lean that he had, walking to the wicket. I could go home after that because I had seen enough, because it sort of fulfilled my dream of seeing Sagari Sobers live. And I think that is the way we think of the greats, the way people talk about Messi now and Pelé and Maradona and so many others in football as the World Cup is coming to its finale, that when you talk about a Gary Sobers, it's not good enough to just say he was a great cricketer or the greatest cricketer. It was the impact, the imagery of someone of such ability who did it apparently so easily that left such a lasting impression.
Very well. And for you, Sir Pereiro, how should he be remembered?
Well, as the best ever. As the best ever. I mean, a man who could make over 8,000 runs and pick up all those wickets and take all those great catches off landscapes. There will never be another Sagari Sobers. There probably will never be another Pelé. There will never be another Muhammad Ali. I can go on. But what he set in his time, and the generation that followed, the Clive Lloyd generation, the Viv Richard generation, they built on some of the things that the Garfield Sobers, the Everton Weeks period, that had created a foundation, and they took it to a higher level. And just before maybe I say my final words,
I have to take the final word now.
I saw the reaction of Australians to Sobers, and Ian Chappell will say that he is the greatest batsman who ever lived.
Very well. Greatest batsman who ever lived. Thank you so much, Joseph, Reds Pereira and Fazir Mohammed, veteran cricket commentators, for joining us to tell us about the life of Sir Gary Garfield Sobers. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Take care.
Good. You heard it. Up next, the headlines.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is...
A minute after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Mahiri Stewart. The opposition PNP has hit back at claims made by Transport Minister Darrell Vaz that it is to blame for the high toll charges facing motorists who use the north-south leg of Highway 2000. Opposition spokesman on Land and Works Lothan Cousins says Minister Vaz's claim is an attempt to mislead the public. He says while the principal agreements that established the framework for the North-South Highway project were signed in June 2012, they were negotiated and executed by a JLP administration in 2011. Cousins says the PNP signed the deals within the framework of contractual arrangements and financial principles that had already been established by the previous JLP government. These include the MOU between the government and China Harbour Engineering Company Limited, the framework agreement, and the original implementation agreement, all signed before the December 2011 general election. Cousins says the current Holness government cannot wash its hands of responsibility for the increased toll rates. But the Transport Minister has hit back. In a statement issued at about 4:30 p.m. today, Vaz says the deal for the toll arrangements was signed by the last PNP administration, 6 months after it had retaken control of the government.
Once again, the PNP is being completely disingenuous. I understand that Mr. Cousins just got the little work a few days ago as shadow spokesperson, so we neither have the time or the documentation to properly review. What I can say categorically is that the Labour Party lost office in 2011, December. This was signed 6 months later, in June 2012, which would have given them sufficient time, wherever the discussions had reached, to quote and put together a proper final contract for signing, which the onus was on them to do.
Transport Minister Darrell Vaz and the opposition spokesman on Land and Works, Lothan Cousins, says Minister Vaz must provide transparency regarding the planned expansion of the Maumee Bay Toll Plaza in St. Anne. The government announced on Thursday that 2 additional toll lanes are under construction at Maumee Bay. Once finished, they are expected to reduce the traffic pileup during peak weekend periods on the Caymanas to Ocherius leg of the highway. Cousins notes that the government has provided no details about the contractual basis for the project or how it will be financed. He is calling on the government to disclose whether the expansion is being undertaken as a grant or variation under the concession agreement and whether the project will be funded by the government or the concessionaire. He also wants discourse on whether the works are intended to enable the operator to satisfy its contractual obligation to maintain the required level of service. Tributes continue to pour in for legendary cricketer Sir Garfield Sobers, who died on Friday morning at the age of 89. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has labelled Sir Gary, as a true son of the Caribbean. He says Sir Gary's legacy extends far beyond the cricket field. According to the Prime Minister, Sobers united people across the Caribbean and around the world through a shared love of the game. Dr. Holness adds that Sobers' captaincy of the West Indies saw him lead with distinction and helped to strengthen the team's place among the world's finest. And Sports Minister Olivia Grange has hailed the legendary Barbadian as a titan. Sir Gary played for the West Indies for 18 years. Minister Grange, described him as a phenomenal sportsman who was also a unifying symbol of West Indian excellence, pride, and identity. She referenced his 365 not-out performance at Sabina Park in Jamaica against Pakistan in 1958, a feat he achieved at the age of 21. On behalf of the Jamaican government, Minister Grange has extended condolences to Sir Gary's family, friends, and loved ones, as well as to the people of his native Barbados and to the entire regional and global cricketing fraternity. And opposition spokesperson on sport and former West Indies cricketer Wavell Hines has described the late Sir Garfield Sobers as a man whose legacy transcends generations. Hines, in his tribute, says Sir Gary was one of the greatest sporting figures the Caribbean has ever produced. He says his achievements inspired generations of young men and women to believe that greatness was within their reach. According to Hines, his most memorable interaction with Sobers came in 2005 in Barbados. He says they spoke during a West Indies training camp ahead of a test series against South Africa. Hines says he used the lessons learned from their conversation to record his highest score in the first test against South Africa in Guyana. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz is renewing his appeal for greater responsibility and discipline on the nation's roads. It follows the fatal motor vehicle collision on the Bogue Gate Road in Falmouth, Trelawney on Friday morning. 7 men were killed during the incident. Minister Vaz says the tragedy is another painful reminder that Jamaica continues to suffer the devastating consequences of reckless behavior on the roads. He noted that the unacceptable number of road fatalities recorded this year demands a renewed commitment for every road user to obey the road code. The 7 fatalities add to the 166 people killed on the nation's roads between January 1 and July 17. Minister Vaz says the Transport Ministry will soon launch a public safety education campaign aimed at improving behavior on the nation's roads. And finally, Member of Parliament for North West St. Catherine, Damian Crawford, says he will not be drawn into responding to what he describes as coordinated attacks against him and his perceived supporters inside the PNP. In a message posted to PNP WhatsApp groups on Thursday, Crawford accused some individuals of using proxies to attack him. In the message, the MP says he has made no public announcement indicating an intention to seek any leadership position within the PNP. However, he maintained that as a registered member of the party, he has the right to offer himself for any position should he choose to do so. Crawford also notes that under the party's rules, elections for the positions of president and vice president are not due until September 2027. He argued that a prolonged internal campaign over the next 14 months would be damaging to the party's prospects. Those are the headlines at 6. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Sports is next.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall.
Our Total Tools.
Weed whacker figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total Tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When they say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slipe Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
A voice you love returns home. This August, afternoons on Nationwide on air and online will never be the same.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Come with us to celebrate a major milestone in education. Join Nationwide 90 FM during Urban Paradise on Sunday, July 19 from 9 a.m. to 12 noon for the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean's graduation ceremony. Let's celebrate the achievements of the graduating class as they honor years of hard work and dedication while looking ahead to new opportunities. So tune in Sunday, July 19 from 9 a.m. to 12 noon as we honor this memorable occasion. Catch this and so much more on our YouTube channel, NNN Radio Live. Keep your dials locked to Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean. Journey to the finish, celebrating success, inspiring futures.
Good evening with your sports report. I'm Alwick Swaby. We both things off with some cricket as tributes continue to pour in following the passing of Barbadian and West Indies cricket legend Sir Garfield Sobers. Sir Garfield died on Friday at the age of 89, bringing to a close the life of one of cricket's greatest ever icons. Owen Buchanan tells us more.
Widely regarded as the finest all-rounder in the history of the game, Sobers was named one of Wisden's 5 cricketers of the 20th century. His remarkable Test career spanned 2 decades, during which he captivated audience with his brilliance as a batsman, bowler and fielder. A national hero of Barbados, Sobers' influence extended far beyond his homeland. He became a symbol of West Indies cricket excellence and was knighted shortly after his retirement in recognition of his outstanding contribution to the sport. President of Cricket West Indies, Dr. Kishore Shallow, described Sobers as a unique individual both on and off the field.
The Right Excellence Garfield Sobers was the greatest cricketer the world has ever seen. His mastery of batting, bowling and fielding was unparalleled, but his true significance reached far beyond the boundary ropes. He emerged from the Caribbean at a time when our region was finding its voice and asserting its place on the world stage. His legacy will forever endure in the hearts of our region and the story of the cricketing world. He showed that greatness was not confined by the size of our nations, the geography of our islands, or the circumstances of our beginnings.
Cricket West Indies CEO Chris Derrin says Sobers was among the players who first inspired his love for the game, describing him as a giant whose legacy transcends statistics.
As children, we all imitated when we were playing in our backyards, how we turned up our collar, we tried to walk like him, even if we didn't have his skill. To the end, he remained gracious, approachable, deeply committed to the continued growth of West Indies cricket.
Meanwhile, President of Jamaica Cricket Association, Dr. Donovan Bennett, remembers what's arguably Sobers' finest moment.
Well, he certainly means a lot to us because that world record that he made, the 365 not out against Pakistan, was in fact at Sabina Park. So it is one of the things that Sabina Park is known for. But in addition to that, he was a tremendous all-rounder, probably the best the world has ever seen. Certainly have deep respect for him, and I would like to express my condolences and that of the Jamaica Cricket Association and cricket in Jamaica in general.
Sir Garfield Sobers leaves behind an unmatched legacy that will continue to inspire cricketers and fans across the Caribbean and the world. Oreen Buchanan, reporting for Nationwide Sports.
Thanks, Oreen. Now, Jamaica will go in search of a third straight win at this year's Cricket West Indies Rising Stars Under-19 Cricket Tournament when they face the Windward Islands at Bethsaida Sports Club in Antigua on Saturday, starting at 9 a.m. Jamaica time. Jamaica lost their opening game of the campaign to the Leeward Islands, but hit back brilliantly to defeat Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago. They are currently second in the points table behind Barbados, who've won all 3 of their games to date. In other games on Saturday, the Leewards will battle Trinidad and Tobago, while Barbados face the Windwards. Now to football, as Lionel Messi has the opportunity to add another remarkable chapter to his legendary career on Sunday when Argentina takes on Spain in the 2026 FIFA World Cup final at New Jersey Stadium. Mahiri Stewart tells us more.
A victory would give Messi his second World Cup title and cement Argentina's place among the tournament's greatest teams. The championship match concludes a historic World Cup that featured an expanded field of 48 nations competing in more than 100 matches across the United States, Mexico, and Canada over the past 6 weeks. Argentina enters the final as the defending champion after overcoming England 2-1 in dramatic fashion in Wednesday's semi-final. The South American Giants are seeking their fourth World Cup title after lifting the trophy in 1978, 1986, and 2022. Argentina also arrives in the final on the back of consecutive Copa America triumphs in 2021 and 2024. Standing in Argentina's way is a disciplined Spanish side that has been one of the tournament's standout performers. Spain reached the final with a 2-0 victory over two-time world champion France on Tuesday, eliminating one of the pre-tournament favourites. La Roja has been nearly flawless defensively, conceding just one goal throughout the competition. Spain is aiming to capture its second FIFA World Cup title after winning its first in 2010. The European champions have carried their strong form into the global tournament after claiming the UEFA European Championship in 2024 with a 2-1 victory over England. Sunday's final sets up a compelling clash between Argentina's championship experience and Spain's dominant defense. Much of the spotlight will fall on Messi, who could become one of the few players in football history to win multiple World Cup titles while leading his nation to consecutive appearances in the final. Before the championship match, England and France will meet on Saturday at Miami Stadium in the third-place playoff. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide Sports.
Thank you, Mahiri. Now, meanwhile, Gerard Piqué, the 2010 FIFA World Cup champion with Spain, stated that the team should be mindful of its tactics in Sunday's World Cup final against Argentina and avoid suffering the same fate England experienced during their semi-final encounter.
If Spain score first and start winning the game, I think they have to play absolutely the same. What happened with England is that they changed, they scored, and after that, I don't know why players stop pressuring, they start to go to their box, and there is when Messi and Argentina is dangerous because they know how to put the balls, how to cross the ball, how to score. If they play in their half, like 50 meters from the goal, then it's more difficult for them. So hopefully Spain plays as they always play, which is pressuring a lot.
Piqué is hopeful that the bright lights of a World Cup final isn't a burden for their talented 19-year-old star, Lamine Yamal.
So I'm sure that at his age, he's mature enough to have an incredible performance on the final and to try to help Spain to win.
Gerard Piqué. Now to some track and field as the Wonder Diamond League Series moves to London on Saturday for its 11th stop on the Olympic Stadium. Jamaica will have 6 competitors on the bill. Reigning world 100 meters champion Oblique Seville is down to contest the men's 100 meters with Zarnell Hughes and Letsil Tobago. Nikki Surprise and Stacey Ann Williams are entered for the women's 400 meters, where they'll face the informed Olympic champion Merlady Paulino of the Dominican Republic. Jamaica will also be strongly represented in the 110 meters hurdles with world silver medalist Orlando Bennett and Damaria Prince. Meanwhile, Commonwealth Games champion Lamara Distin will fly the Jamaican flag in the women's high jump. The meet is set to get underway at 7 a.m. Jamaica time. Now, Andre Daly has sailed into the history books after winning the inaugural World Sailing Caribbean Inclusive Championships in Antigua and Barbuda, becoming the first parasailer to represent the Jamaica Paralympic Association on the international stage. Daly, who teamed up with coach Emma Paul, dominated the 3-day championships, winning 7 of the 10 races against competitors from Chile, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, and St. Vincent and St. Kitts and Nevis. Competing in sailing for the very first time, Daly said the experience was both challenging and rewarding. An experienced diver, Daly became a para-athlete following a diving accident but quickly adopted to the sport of sailing, leading the competition from start to finish. Jamaica Paralympic Association President Christopher Samuda praised Daly's achievement.
100 is exploding barriers and giving lessons of becoming who you will yourself to be. The Jamaica Paralympic Association is on a drive. We are on a drive to deepen the pool of talent across the disciplines of sport. We are investing in talent. But more importantly, more important than the money we give is the indomitable spirit of our para-athletes to overcome and to become. Money can't buy that.
Christopher Samuda, I'm Alric Swebe, and that's your sports.
From the biggest tracks to the biggest energy, Nationwide keeps it moving. If you love the vibes, come and lock in with us for real.
World boss, leave a prison could stop me.
Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Practice. God me say you watch you over me practice.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
A voice, a personality you love, returns to Nationwide this August. Afternoons, on air and online at Nationwide, will never be the same.
If you've ever called in, shared your story, or got help on this show, then you're already family. Now make it official. Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
It all comes down to this. The FIFA World Cup Final 2026. Spain versus Argentina. The champions of Europe versus the champions of the world. This Sunday, July 19 at 2 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM. Live from the Carib Cinema. It's Spain's flair versus Argentina's firepower. It's the clash of the titans.
It's swept in! And of course it's Lionel Messi! Lionel Messi saves the day for Argentina!
I'll be breaking it down from the Carib Cinema live on Nationwide 90 FM, your radio station for the FIFA World Cup. Regular seating $1,500, box seating $2,500, and thanks to our broadcast sponsor AnyBet, your cover charge is fully redeemable at the concession stand. Your ticket goes straight to your favorite cinema snacks while you witness football history on the big screen.
Porro, Olmo, Pedro Porro! It's happening for Spain!
And it doesn't stop there. You could win with AnyBet. 2 lucky fans will win tickets to the Carib Cinema on final day, plus a gift box of goodies, food and drinks included. Just answer our Bet Builder trivia question. Only with AnyBet. Your best bet. Must have an AnyBet account to qualify. Winners will be announced on Friday, July 17. So join me, Wayne Walker, at the next.
Not a mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all the schoolers who are taking beats.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team. Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
The Nation's Business is brought to you by the Jamaica International Financial Services Authority, promoting transparency, trust, and sustainable investment growth.
Minutes after 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's Nationwide at 5, and of course we now turn to the nation's business. The National Water Commission, the NWC, has emerged as the nation's top performing utility provider in overall customer experience. That's according to the Mystery Shopping Study for 2025, organized by the Office of Utilities Regulations, the OUR. But the annual study highlights several gaps in basic customer engagement behavior across entities. There's more in this report from Gianni Willie.
The OUR research evaluated customer interactions across multiple service channels, including in-store locations, call centers, website chats, social media platforms, and mobile applications. It collected data between August and October 2025. It analyzed 437 interactions with the National Water Commission, Digicel, Flow, and the Jamaica Public Service Company, and generated a customer experience score. The higher, the better. NWC topped the group with an overall 79%. That's a 21 percentage points increase over the previous year. The OUR attributes the increase to its call center operations, which bettered its performance by 43%, and in-store performance, which increased by 22%. Digicel was second, with an overall score of 76%, 12 percentage points up from the previous year. It saw a 30 percentage point increase in its customer experience at its in-store operations and an 8% boost at its call centers. The JPS scored 74%, up from 70% in 2024. The OUR says the Light and Power Company's mobile app and relatively consistent performance across the modalities are to be credited for the improvement. Ending the list is Flow. It scored an overall 67%. It was the only company that saw a decline in its score when compared to the previous year, down 3% over 2024. The study registered in-store and digital service improvements, but noted that Flow fell down due to its poor cost center performance. Overall, the study highlighted issues across the four companies, including limited greeting, acknowledgement, or courtesy, weak empathy when dealing with billing problems or service disruptions, leaving customers waiting without updates, and low enthusiasm or disengagement by some agents. The OUR's Director of Consumer and Public Affairs, Yvonne Nicholson, says service providers should improve digital channels to better manage customer issues.
We're urging service providers to improve their digital channels so that they can better manage issues end to end. For example, we'd want them to enable full case resolution through mobile apps, and this should include matters such as customer refunds, payment clarifications, contract termination application, and service requests. We'd also want them to allow customers to upload documents, track requests, and receive status updates through various digital portals.
Gianni Willie for Nationwide News.
Thank you so much, Gianni. Well, joining us to discuss further are Director of Consumer and Public Affairs at the OUR, Yvonne Nicholson, and the CEO of Market Research Services Limited, Kishka K. Anderson. Of course, they are the ones that conducted the study for the OUR. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good afternoon. Good
Yes.
afternoon to you.
Good. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, first of all, Kishka, I'd like to start with you, the overview of this mystery shopping study.
Okay, so as you would have said in your report, the study was done between August and October over a 2-month period. And I should let you know that it represents an audit of customer experience. And what we did, 437 interactions, and we made sure we captured the customer experience across different days of the week and different times of the month. There is a period we consider the peak season and the off-peak season. And the peak season is typically around the pay cycle when people get paid, and that's when they're typically dealing with all their bills and just outside of the peak season.
Okay. And as regards the ranking, NWC came in first, but what was the ranking for the other utility companies?
Okay, so NWC was first at 79% overall performance, followed behind by Digicel, 76%, JPS, 74%, and Flow at 67%.
Okay. So repeat that again for me. Somebody's asking to get that information again.
So NWC overall score, 79%, and this is across all customer touch points, in-store, call center, website chat, social media, and mobile applications. NWC, 79%, Digicel, 76%, JPS, 74%, and Flow, 67%.
And what does the data tell you about calls, for example? Because many citizens here, we complain about calls. You're trying to call these companies, we're not getting through. They have you on the line for long periods of time and you get nowhere. What did the data tell you about persons calling in to these utility providers?
Okay, so what it shows is that across all the different customer touch points, the call center is where customer experience service reps are doing better. And yes, there are instances where we're not getting through, but the study is designed to capture how the customer experience reps actually deal with specific situations. So we give our shoppers scenarios that they have to play out regarding the typical challenges that customers complain about to the OUR, and it's how best the customer representative is able to answer the questions that emerge when dealing with the customer on those particular issues.
Very well. Yvonne, Kishka, I'm going to ask you to hold the line for me, and we'll be right back with you after this break.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:31. 6:31. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're in the nation's business. I'm speaking with Kishka K. Anderson, the CEO of Market Research Services Limited, and Yvonne Nicholson, the Director of Consumer and Public Affairs at the OUR, the Office of Utilities Regulation. Yvonne, are you there with us?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good.
Thank you.
The import of this study, why is it important, and how does the OUR plan to use this study to hold our utility providers to greater account where these matters are concerned?
All right, so thank you for that question. Just to give a little context to what the work that we have done on the mystery shopping research, we've been actually doing it for 9 years now.
Okay.
And to date, we have conducted 5 studies. We missed 4 in 2019, and from 2020 to 2023, those were the COVID years. Our objectives were to make sure that the providers were adhering to the terms and conditions of their license. We wanted to assess consumer experience and to provide live and objective, quantitative and qualitative feedback about this experience. And we also wanted to use the findings to measure the service providers' performance and, of course, to make recommendations for improvement. So practically, how we have used this study, the findings, for 7 years, we had a quality of service symposium where we shared best practices with all the customer service arms of the utility providers. We did best practices and benchmarking just to encourage a culture of continuous service enhancement throughout the sectors. Then from the monitoring side, we issued a determination on complaints handling for utility service providers. This was done in February 2024. So with this determination or decision, the providers actually had to show evidence that they are implementing a complaints handling process into their operations. They have to show evidence that they're developing a training manual for their customer service agents.
among other things.
And you're of the view, Yvonne, that since you've been doing these studies, there has been some improvement across all utility providers in customer experience.
Well, it has not been a straight line up. When we started in 2017, the average score was 69%. It dropped in 2019 and actually to 61%, and actually fell deeply in 2023 to 54%. Bounced back a little in 24 to 66%. That's the average score. And in 2025, it has gone up to 74%. So I would say it has not been a straight line as expected. We expect, or utopia is, of course, 90% to 100, which is probably well nigh impossible. But right now we're at 74%.
Okay.
What would you say, Kishka?
Yes, absolutely. And I think what I'd like to point out is that what we've seen over the evolution of the study is how robust it has been. When we started in 2017, we were looking at the typical customer touch points of the call center, in-store, and to a lesser extent, digital. But as the market transitioned to digital, we emphasize a lot more in the tracking and in the study digital. And we're seeing that in the digital space, the utilities are not as effective or not performing as well as we'd like to see them doing, especially as there's a push for greater use of digital by customers. I'd like to point out, though, that the mobile applications, they have consistently done very well, and it's always a toss-up between the mobile applications and the call center for the customer touch points that deliver the best customer experience.
Based on what you just said just now, Kishka, the common customer service weaknesses that you identified across all providers, what would that be?
Oh, absolutely. It's the whole issue of engagement, the ability for the customer experience representatives to make the customers feel special. The simple courtesies, the acknowledgement, you're putting me on hold, advising me that you're putting me on hold in the case of the call center. And in person, it's that welcoming, warm feeling that you value who I am as a customer. But also importantly, when the customer has an issue, is their inability to address the question. So we pose specific questions to the customer rep based on the complaints that customers typically experience and their inability to provide solutions or answers to the customers that one would be expecting. That's a major challenge.
So for Flow, for example, they've declined despite their improvement in some service channels. What's happening there with Flow?
All right, so Flow is up and down. We have our own, speculations as to maybe the transition, the change in ownership, but we see that coming out in just about all their customer touch points. But they fell down in call center, in the in-store, and in the digital platform. And that's something that is a concern. The report is very detailed, and we would have offered some suggestions about the areas, the gaps that they need to fill. And it's definitely in terms of the customer engagement across these platforms and the ability to respond to the issues that the customers are facing.
And Digicel, for example, improvements again. What's driven their higher customer experience score?
Digicel online, they're doing well in the call center. So when we look at Digicel's performance in the call center, they would have gotten a 76%. In the calls, my apologies, they would have gotten a 90% in the call center compared to a 76% in store. And then when we look at their digital or online presence or performance in the online space, they're about 61%. So you can see they're really doing well in the call center. Have some work to do in the digital space and as well face-to-face.
Very well. Yvonne, based on all of what Kishka has said and, of course, your site and assessment of the report, what would be OUR's recommendation to the utility companies at this point in time, having had sight of this report, as regards improving customer engagement and service delivery?
I believe in the power of training and exposure. So I
believe that our strongest recommendation would be for them to, in fact, operationalize the annual certification of their frontline staff to improve their customer engagement skills across all their teams. And that training would include greeting, acknowledgement, protocols, active listening, and empathy. We would also like to encourage them to beef up on their use of the apps if it is that they're driving persons online or to use these digital solutions. They actually have to make them responsive to what the customer needs.
Got you. So you just spoke about responsiveness, though, Yvonne. Many persons, they are annoyed when they have to interface with the artificial intelligence over the phone, when they have to call and talk to the machines, for example. Based on the study, is the trend moving to accept it, or is there still a rejection of it?
I believe that the providers want to move in the direction of kind of dematerializing the engagement and putting everything into the AI space, but I don't believe that we're there yet.
You're not there yet?
No, absolutely not.
And based on the numbers, Kishka K, what is it saying with regard to the machine, people talking to the machine? Is there this big rejection of it? Are people warming up to it? What are the trends saying year after year?
That's a very interesting question, because what the data does show is that when it comes on to the mobile application, where there is virtually no interaction with whether a person or a fake person, an AI, it's topping, and customers are happy there because it tends to be very responsive based on what we are checking. But that space is very limited in terms of the issues or the kinds of conversations that you can have with it. But when it comes on certainly to digital space, they are frustrated because the AI bot or the AI can go so far and no further. And then it eventually puts you onto a customer service rep sometimes, and that's where the frustration comes in. So the time it takes to actually get a situation resolved or a question answered is just insane or just not acceptable for the customer because of the time, and they're on their mobile devices. Exactly. So you hear frustrations about my credit is run out, all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, Kishka, because a lot of providers, they use toll-free numbers like 1-888, and you'd have to have credit to use it, even though it says toll-free. What do the numbers say about that as well? The issue with the numbers.
Right. Well, the mystery shopper doesn't really cover that exactly, but we can speak to other studies that we'd have done in the space, even for the OER. It continues to be a frustrating point for customers. That very fact that you are using your mobile device, where, as you know, our population depends heavily on the mobile devices, and it comes at a cost. So that is the real frustration that they have, and it's something that really ought to be addressed.
Very well. And Yvonne, final one to you. You've done this study, but Yvonne, the people are still frustrated. The numbers are saying there are some improvements. Some companies are, have not improved. But if someone has a problem with a utility provider, walk me through the steps. Can they call the OUR and say, I have this problem, and the OUR intervenes and helps them? Explain to the listeners what happens when they are faced with a situation where they have a problem with a utility provider and they seem to be getting nowhere.
Okay, so we do have a complaints handling process where we encourage the customers to go first to their provider. That's the first call, because that's where they have put their business. If they're dissatisfied, that's why the OUR is here. They would come to us, stating their dissatisfaction, and we would take it from there with our investigation and to help them to resolve the complaint. But the first call is to go to the provider.
and allows them to resolve.
Yeah, but we passed the provider stage, Miss Yvonne. It's not working out. You try to talk to the machine, it's not going anywhere. For example, I know somebody who has a problem with Digicel for the longest time. The box wasn't working in them house, and Digicel still charged them for it. And they've said they've done everything that Digicel told them to do. They still have a problem with Digicel. They're tired to reach out to Digicel. Do they come to you and make the complaint and you intervene?
Yes, absolutely. We would do so.
And when you intervene, how long it takes before the matter gets resolved? Is there a timeline as it relates to feedback and all of that?
Well, it depends on the nature of the complaint. There are some complaints that are routine and some that are complex. And depending on the nature of it, it might be resolved quickly, but we do have an established timeline of 30 days. But as I say, there are different types of complaints, and it's a routine complaint that we can resolve, then it will be done, which will be resolved speedily.
Very well, very well. Thank you so much, Yvonne Nicholson. She's the Director of Consumer and Public Affairs at the OUR, and to Kishka K. Anderson, the CEO of Market Research Services Limited. Thank you so much, ladies.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Very good work being done there by the OUR by having that interesting study carried out by Market Research Services Limited. It remains to be seen how the data continues to inform policy and regulation of our utility services. Yes? Well, we go for the break. And after the break, we will hear from the man up north concerning the world. Up next is Across the World.
The Nation's Business was brought to you by the Jamaica International Financial Services Authority, promoting transparency, trust, and sustainable investment growth. The Jamaica International Financial Services Authority promotes Jamaica as a jurisdiction for international financial services. Visit JIFSA at jifsa.gov.jm. The time by JIFSA is
14 minutes to 7 o'clock.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Well, in a primetime speech on Thursday, the US President Donald Trump has accused China of meddling in the 2020 presidential election. These allegations contradict the U.S. intelligence community's own past findings. In the half-hour speech, Trump said he'd declassified hundreds of intelligence files that he claims support the idea that Beijing tried to sway the election toward Joe Biden. He accused China of illegally acquiring 220 million voter files. He also said that voter data in 18 states was, in his words, bought, stolen, or hacked by China. He did not present, of course, any evidence that China used any of that information to actually alter voting systems or influence the outcome of the elections. China's foreign ministry has strongly denied the allegations, calling them entirely fabricated. China's foreign ministry spokesman Lin Yan called Trump's claims malicious smears that have long been proven to be groundless. The BBC has more in this report.
We start with breaking news, and that is that President Trump has accused China of extensive interference in the 2020 US elections and also alleged that US intelligence had covered up attempts by Beijing to damage him electorally. In an address to the nation, the US president, who lost that election to Joe Biden, repeated his claims it had been rigged against him. Dozens of investigations, audits and court proceedings at all levels have failed to find any evidence of fraud. Opposition Democrats had warned ahead of this speech that Mr. Trump was laying the ground to interfere in November's midterm elections, in which the Republicans risk losing control of Congress.
U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country.
So that was President Trump speaking just a short time ago. Let's speak to our correspondents now. And joined me from Washington and Beijing, we have Nick Johnson and Steve McDonnell, who's going to be taking us through reaction to those comments by President Trump. Let's start first with reaction from the United States. Nick, there had been expectation about the comments that we heard from President Trump, but what sort of reaction has there been since those comments were made?
Well, a lot of Democrats, as you might imagine, have described what President Trump says as completely bogus, as repeating false information, misinformation. But going back to the contents of this speech, I mean, this is safe territory for Donald Trump. In a world that he hasn't been able to control, a narrative he hasn't been able to control over the Iran war over the past few months, this is going over safe ground for him. A claim that he's repeated over the past 6 years, that election in 2020 was stolen from him. And as you heard there, he said this time it was, he laid the target at China, who said that he said that they'd been interfering. He said that they'd managed to get hold of hundreds of thousands of US voter details, but he didn't go into any explanation as to how the possession of those voter details, personal information, phone numbers, what sort of impact those would have had on that election in 2020. There was an investigation that was carried out in 2021 by John Ratcliffe. He's now the director of the CIA, that found that there was no foreign interference in that election whatsoever. I think the reason that Donald Trump is doing this now is, I've already mentioned the fact that he hasn't been able to control the narrative with Iran. This is a narrative he feels he can control. He also wants to get his Save America Act through Congress. Now, that's a bill that he wants to pass whereby voters turning up to the polls here in the US will have to show voter ID, but also proof of citizenship, which Donald Trump and some Republicans think will shore up the integrity of the voting system in the US. But also, I think he's making these claims now because he and the Republicans have not been doing well in the opinion polls, largely because of the cost of living, which is high here at the moment, but also the ongoing war with Iran and the impact that has had on oil and gas prices. And it looks like that the Republicans may well lose the House of Representatives in November in the midterms, and it's very close between them and the Democrats in the Senate. And it feels like Donald Trump is sort of painting a picture of a fragile voting system whereby he can claim that any victory for the Democrats in November may well be rigged.
And coming to you, Stephen, China obviously watching this. Reaction locally where you are?
So the Chinese government has responded initially in the form of a statement from its embassy in Washington saying that it hasn't meddled in the US elections and nor would it ever do so. In the coming hours, we will have a press conference from the Foreign Ministry, the regular Foreign Ministry press briefing, and no doubt questions will come up about this, and we might expect similar comments, I think, at that press briefing. But really what everyone's interested here is in the potential impact of this on Xi Jinping's trip to Washington later this year. Now, Donald Trump had invited him to travel to Washington in September. And remember, they had this meeting in China earlier this year. Now, there's only two possibilities, really. One is that the Chinese government says, you know what, we're not going to do that anymore. You've made these scurrilous allegations against us, so the trip's off. Another possibility, though, is that the party here, the Communist Party, thinks, look, no one's really going to be taking these unsubstantiated allegations so seriously. They can see this for what it is. It's the cut and thrust of politics in America. In the lead up to those midterm elections and Donald Trump's attempts to potentially discredit the results, as we heard earlier. And so trade is number one. What the hell, we'll just put this all to one side, ignore it, and the trip will go ahead. But either way, it is going to be very interesting to see how they do respond in the coming months regarding that possible trip.
Just coming back to you, Nick, you mentioned the Save America Act. There has been very interesting reaction from Chuck Schumer to this on X. What have they said to that?
Well, I mean, it's continued sort of reaction that you might expect from the Democrats here about the concerns about Donald Trump spreading misinformation such as this. And Donald Trump, there was a lot of build-up to this speech here in Washington this afternoon, but a number of the US networks here, ABC being one of them, decided not to take the speech live. And actually, Donald Trump spoke out about that in the speech itself. He said that any of those networks that didn't take his speech live, who didn't want to broadcast such an important announcement, should have their licenses taken away, which would, of course, raise questions about the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and what that means for the press here and how it covers Donald Trump's future speeches.
One of those outlets, of course, Nick, is Fox News. And this ties in directly to those documents that you mentioned, heavily redacted, I understand, and only released once the speech had begun. You heard Donald Trump saying, go to, I think it was the White House. He gave the White House web address. But Fox News also coming out saying, we cannot fact check or verify anything that President Trump has said, which is unusual. This is a pro-Trump news outlet.
Yeah, and Fox News did carry that speech live in its entirety. But yeah, I mean, some of those documents we understand have been redacted. Some commentators here have said that some of those documents that have been released have actually already been in the public domain for a few years and don't necessarily contain anything new. And we were aware of concerns about possible election interference, not just in 2020, but in elections subsequently and prior to that. So I think we should get more detail in the coming days. Hopefully, I think we understand that the Department of Homeland Security is going to be giving a press announcement tomorrow detailing their plans for any investigation based on some of those claims that Donald Trump was making earlier.
And finally, Stephen, obviously we have got the upcoming visit to DC by Xi Jinping. We've just had the visit by President Trump and that heavy business delegation to China. Just remind us how relations are between the two countries with that upcoming trip by Xi Jinping to the US.
Well, of course, they've been tense in recent years following Donald Trump's tariff onslaught and the like. It's China successfully pushing back on that and him losing that battle with China, really. And then they decide they're going to rebuild relations. So Donald Trump comes out here, it's sort of bridges being built. But there weren't any huge breakthroughs on that trip. I mean, what was hoped for, and I guess what was seen to have been achieved, was a sort of semi-normalization between the superpowers and the hope that in the future there could be much more improvement, especially when it comes to trade and the various areas of the blockages. But that was all contingent on Xi Jinping then going later on this year to Washington and the process continuing. And so now we have Donald Trump making these accusations against China, accusations seen by the Chinese government as kind of ridiculous. And so here we are. You wonder, is it going to go ahead? Are those, apart from Xi Jinping's visit, there are also these ongoing talks at ministerial level between the two governments. They're supposedly ironing out all these trade frictions and what have you. So, yeah, like I say, in the coming weeks and months, it will be interesting to see how China responds to this.
Okay, Steve McDonald.
Yes, it will be very interesting to see how China responds to that. But more or none, we will see, as we have been seeing for the past term, well, at least from 2020, yes? Well, that's all the time we have to spend with you this evening. Of course, coming up next is the comments section. But certainly can't leave without, you see the ball in my hand. The World Cup final on Sunday. Viva a la Viva Argentina. Messi to win his back-to-back World Cup, yes. I'm rooting for that, myself and Wayne Walker. So let us see what happens. But of course, I'm sure that the world will be watching with bated breath. Anyways, special thanks to my super producer, Dana Davey, to the man behind the controls, Andrew Boogs, Glenn Anderson, and of course, to you, our listeners, our viewers on YouTube, our sponsors, all of you who make this show possible. Yeah, thank you so much. Well, until next time, take care. Be good. Have a great weekend. One love.
Commercial space is for you. Parks and